Today I'm planning to install these over axle pipes on my 718 GT4. What I've done to the car so far, I've only installed the back box from JCR. So essentially, I think they call it non-silenced race pipes. Essentially, it's the back box, right? That's been replaced, and the car still has the factory particulate filter, and so what I'm going to do today is to uninstall the exhaust, remove those pipes, put these pipes back in, right? So these are Akrapovic over axle pipes. They're built out of titanium, and the reason I like these very much is that, one, they offer a good amount of weight saving compared to the factory because they're built out of titanium. And the second reason I like them very much, I mean, obviously Akrapovic, they make really good exhaust systems, so it's a really good reputable brand. But other than that, the heat shielding is very important for me. Now, if you look at a lot of other designs, that's in Seoul has them, a lot of other companies have them, they don't have this heat shielding, and that's a bit of a concern for me. When you track the car, obviously you're going to be generating a lot of heat in these pipes. I've seen even videos of these pipes actually turning red from the heat. And so just because they run right behind the rear, just to go over the axle, and so they're very close to the wheels, and so what that does, you know, if you're running the car on the track, overall it just heats up the engine bay, but also it impacts your tire pressure, especially in the rear, and so I want to have a bit of a shielding to kind of reduce that effect. I've noticed, like, when I drive my car, when I start the car, typically the rear tire pressures are 3 psi's lower than when the car starts to perform at the temperature. So if you can see right just behind there, even the factory one has some amount of heat shielding. As you can see, the filter also has some kind of heat shielding. So I want to make sure that I maintain those heat shielding when I install a new system. And so that's another reason why I got these. Yeah, so, since we're on the topic of heat, the filters, the OPF filters, they generate a lot of heat just because they reduce the flow, or they basically burn the particulates that come through the exhaust system, and so that itself generates an amount of heat. So removing the filter hopefully should reduce the heat, but also having the heat shielding is going to work. Now, I got very, very lucky that I was able to find this Akrapovic over axle pipes, and the reason for that is they no longer are sold in the US. I reached out to Akrapovic official distributor in the US, and basically they said they don't import these, and so I was able to get these from another GT4 owner who was selling it up in Canada. I was able to pick it up there and fly it down here. So very lucky to have this, and so this with the JCR should sound amazing. Akrapovic claims that this is going to add 15 horsepower. Now, again, like, I trust Akrapovic. I hope that's the case. But just if you haven't seen my previous video from installing JCR exhaust, after I installed JCR exhaust, with the dyno test that I did 2 weeks apart, admittedly, but nevertheless, I've witnessed 10 horsepower reduction. Now, it may be just because I had the second dyno like 10 days after, but nevertheless, my gut feel is that the car has not gained any power and has not lost any power due to the JCR addition. Now with this, I'm curious to know how this is going to be. So once I get it installed, I'm going to do a butt dyno on this, and hopefully, it feels a bit faster. I've driven, I've been in the passenger seat of another GT4 that had the exact setup. So they had the Akrapovic over axle pipes, and they had JCR non-silenced, and that car felt amazing, and it sounded really good. Actually, you know what? I'll put a clip of that experience now. So having witnessed that, I wanted to have the similar amount of sound, but also I wanted to, get some of that power gain that I felt with the other car. So that's why I'm installing this today. Another piece that I'm going to be installing today is this piece from JCR. So apparently, and this is very interesting, if you go and watch my JCR exhaust installation video, I was struggling with getting this fitted on my car. So once you have this bracket installed, it was hanging lower than what it was expected to be. And so I ended up bending actually this piece. So after some back and forth and with help of some of the other GT4 owners, I realized that there's an additional piece that should have been shipped with my initial exhaust setup that was not shipped. That's due to the fact that I have a PDK. And so this bracket is good for the manual cars, but if you have the PDK, you need this extra bracket. And so I reached out to Johnny from JCR. He is very good in responding and being a very customer oriented. So he was kind enough to actually send me this new bracket set that I'm going to be using to replace the bracket that was already bent on the car, just because my car is PDK and it needs a different angle. So for today, that's what we're going to do. I'm going to drop the JCR exhaust. I'm going to drop the over axle pipes, or replace them with this, and then put the exhaust back, and I'm going to use the right bracket. This is the particulate filter, and you can see there's some heat shielding here. There's some heat shielding on the pipe. The filter is right here, so we're gonna be replacing it with the over axle pipes from Akrapovic, and that basically eliminates this filter right here. So one end of that is connected to the cats and then the header, and the other end is connected to the exhaust, which is in my case JCR. In addition to that, the problem I had with the JCR supporting bracket, as you can see here, they're somewhat bent. This is not supposed to be bent like this, and the reason for that was they basically sent me this bracket without sending me the adapter that needs to be installed on the PDK transmission. So on the manual cars, you basically only need this bracket, but if you have PDK, there is some additional piece that needs to get connected here. So we'll start by taking off the exhaust. So I'm going to start loosening up all these clamps. Then I'm going to take out these bolts, and then basically disconnect it by removing I think there should be supposed to be 5 bolts. And so we'll get that done and then remove the lines, and that should allow us to drop the JCR exhaust, and then from there we'll move backward and remove the particulate filter. That's the plan. All right, so the JCR exhaust is off. We've gone ahead and loosened the bolts on the header side, and then we'll basically take these off and put on the new over axle pipes, and then from there we'll just install the exhaust back on. And in case you haven't seen this before, these are the faded particulate filters. As you can see, the honeycomb inside, that's what restricts the flow. So as you can see, the old ones are off, the new over axle pipes. Huge difference in terms of weight, so that's going to be cool. As you can see, we ended up actually taking out one of the struts here, but we'll put that back in, not a problem. And then from there we'll just install everything back on. I'm not going to document how we install the exhaust, and everything else should be very simple. But if you have any questions, I have another video on how we installed the JCR exhaust. I'll link the video in the description, so feel free to watch that video. We got the new adapter for the PDK, and this is somehow supposed to help. So now you can see the original problem with the original bracket, right? This one is not bent, and as you can see, well, it's always sit with an angle. So this bracket that we got, the adapter, was supposed to help with that. so we don't end up bending this plate like we did last time. But yeah, you see this is a problem. Now, trying to figure out how this goes on. We've tried multiple ways and it doesn't make any sense. So if we try it this way, it doesn't make sense. If we try it this way, it doesn't make sense. If we put it this way, it doesn't make sense. If you put it this way, it doesn't make sense. It should be something like this, but as you can see, the holes don't really line up. This angle doesn't go away. If I put it on this side, it's still weird. Later, and finally I was able to finish off the job. The trouble that I ran into was with these clamps. So this one was the one that I got from JCR, and as you can see, I've snapped the bolt on this one. So what ended up happening, I think through just heat cycling and whatnot, this bolt got stuck, and we were trying to undo it and it just snapped. We tried to get this bolt out in hopes of replacing just the bolt, but we realized that this is pretty much stuck in and there's no way we can take it out. So I went on Amazon and I was actually able to find the exact same clamp that JCR uses, and so I was able to luckily order this, and it took a couple of days to come in. I got a bunch of them just in case in future I ran into some similar problems. But anyway, everything is now sorted out, everything is done. And as you can see, everything is set up. It sounds amazing. I did a quick start a few minutes earlier, and I felt like the whole house shook. It was very loud. I think my neighbor's going to hate me even more. But hey, this is kind of what I wanted to go for, and this is exactly what I got. Very excited to get the panel back on, get the wheels back on, and take it out for a spin. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at the underbody. So as you can see, everything is nicely put together. I love the heat shielding here. JCR exhaust is put back in place. As I mentioned, the bracket, I wasn't able to get the PDK bracket on. So when you put the PDK bracket, it basically makes these holes, right now they're kind of horizontal. It basically flips them and it makes two holes available to you. And then you need to play with the angle of this bracket to get it lined up. Some of the implications of that is that this beautiful J that represents JCR is not going to be visible from the rear side. So that's one compromise. The second compromise in my case was that I couldn't get these holes lined up. So I don't know if this is a different version of the PDK, or I don't know what's going on. But anyway, I'm just going to use the old bracket that I ended up bending, and that's perfectly fine. Luckily I was able to bend it without messing up without any of the screws, so everything is fine. And then and so this was the clamp that got snapped, and I replaced this one. It's all good to go now. And then I spent some time just adjusting the resonators, just to make sure that nothing is touching, and one of the important things, you want to make sure that the resonator doesn't touch the heat shielding and it doesn't hit any of the other pipes. And once you have that in that position, you can tighten everything up. One thing I noticed with the Akrapovic over-axle pipes was that it actually dropped the whole exhaust a little bit compared to the OEM particulate filter. This one actually dropped down the exhaust a little bit more. Now I have a bit more space on the top, separating the the JCR exhaust from the top heat shield. So that was a good surprise. I had to readjust the outlets, right? Just, you know, to move them up a little bit. But now I have plenty of space, nothing is touching, everything looks lined up and good. Lines are connected, so I'll just put the panel back on, get the wheels back on, and take it out for a spin.